Hey, this is Joe from HomeStudioCorner.com. Up next on my list of favorite plugins in Studio One is the compressor, and it's got a really cool name. It's called Compressor. Isn't that nice? So it's a basic compressor that you, just like any other compressor you would look at, it's got all the things you're looking for: ratio, threshold, a knee control that adjusts how kind of sharp the angle is. It's got look ahead, which means it's kind of anticipating peaks as they come up. You can link left and right, which I always leave on. And then over here, you've got your input gain, makeup gain, attack, and release. So input gain might not be on every compressor you use, but output gain, that's pretty standard. And then the release, you can adjust it yourself, or you can have it automatically adjust or adapt. Adaptive release, and then auto sets the attack and the release. I don't use those. I like to set it myself. So a couple things that I like that make this compressor kind of cool. First of all, it has an input and an output meter. So I can see, okay, the drums coming in are at this level, and after I use all my compression, I can see the overall level is a little bit lower. So I can come in here, and with my makeup gain, I can turn it up to where it's more, I can see visually that I'm matching the level. So when I listen to with and without compression, it's at roughly the same volume, which helps with making decisions. Is the compression I'm doing, is it helping anything? If it is, then it should sound better even at the same volume, okay? That's a great way to not trick yourself. So what else is going on over here? The one thing I really like about this is there's this mix knob over here. If you've ever done any sort of parallel compression, or sometimes it's called New York compression, there's lots of names for it, where you run the drums through a dry track and then through a track where you use compression and you blend them together, well, now you can do that with one plugin. So it defaults to coming out here at 100%, which means you're listening to 100% of the signal is being sent through the compressor. But what if you wanted to really squash it and then only listen to maybe half and half? This allows you to do that. As you bring the mix knob down to 0, right now we would be listening to just the dry drum track. As we bring it up, we're introducing more of the compressed signal until at 100% we're listening to completely compressed signal. So it's fun to, in this mix, I set it up, I believe, at 50%. So I'm hearing half dry, half compressed. And it gives me the best of both worlds. I get some aggressive compression sound, but I don't lose the initial transient of the drums. This is a really cool feature that you should play around with because it can really give you some other tonal options that you might not have available to you otherwise. Another cool feature is this sidechain feature. This allows you to basically filter what frequencies are feeding the compressor. Now, it doesn't change what you hear and what the signal going through the compressor, but it changes what the compressor is listening to, which is another way of saying a sidechain. And what's cool about this is it's got a low cut and a high cut filter. So if I'm running my drums through this, and I'd like for the compressor not to go nuts every time the kick drum is hit, I can bring this low cut up to where maybe it's at 150 hertz. So those low frequencies of the kick drum will no longer be triggering the compressor because they're being rolled off. What the compressor is listening to basically everything above 160 hertz, right? Now, everything below 160 is still coming through the compressor. It's just not triggering the compressor. So now there's not as much pumping and breathing happening. Same thing up here. You can roll off the highs if you want. Another way of using this is to create a de-esser. You could roll off everything below, 5K and only have the high frequencies triggering the compressor, and it's acting more like a de-esser where only the high frequencies are triggering it, and essentially you created your own de-esser. It's a very, very handy feature. It's a little more advanced, but really cool to mess around with and spend some time getting to know because it's a very, very cool extra feature here that comes stock with Studio One, which I love. Very, very cool. Okay, so that's it for me and the compressor. I love it. One thing I will suggest is if you have a certain attack and release that you tend to use all the time, I tend to default to something like 30 or 50 and 50, then go ahead and set that up. And like I said in the EQ video, come over here and store that as the default preset. So as soon as you pull in the compressor, it'll be set up with the same attack and release times that you typically want it to be, and you're in good shape. One other quick thing is you do have the automatic gain, makeup gain feature. I do not use this. Maybe they'll fix this in the future, but it does not do anything but make it insanely loud. I wish it matched the input and output volumes so that when I'm adjusting the input gain or adjusting the threshold or the ratio, it adjusts the output so that the levels or the average levels are the same before and after. That's how it should work. It doesn't work that way currently. Maybe they'll fix that. I'll talk to them about fixing that. But that's for that reason I don't use this. Okay? All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. See ya.